But isn't that kind of neoliberalism 101? Like, hey, it's all about me and my feelings and look how important I am. And I'm
Well,
the
it,
special
it
little
is, it is, but
snowflake.
I also feel like we've been weakened in
Mhm.
our ability to be analytical.
Mhm. Because of our focus on
The
ourselves
feelings,
as
the
victim.
recognition. Yeah, and it's an ideological machine that prevents people from thinking coolly and coldly about where the money is and what the money what's happening. How we're redistributing money up rather than down. And this is like what makes me so angry most of the time is that we in left like and then the liberal spaces, there's a lot of like superficial activity. But if I've told people, I've done a lot of research, I've told people about this, even though I'm like working on trauma. uh, and like if you are a bunch around a bunch of young like lefty radical faculty, they're just like, okay, we get okay. They don't want to focus on this.
Mhm.
They'd rather fight for the UC making a declaration for a ceasefire in Palestine. Very noble cause. But why is the nitty gritty of this so difficult to focus on?
That's very interesting.
Facts ain't sexy. Someone said facts are super sexy to me. Sorry.
We were talking about it as when we don't have to get into the specifics. I'm sure you don't want to on air. Um, of a situation, but that comment about fighting for the university to sign on for a ceasefire, I was having a conversation with Gene, and I said, and I'll ask you, as we've covered Palestine on this show literally since it started.
Mm,
Um, and I do have to ask the question, what does that do? It just seems really symbolic.
what do you mean?
Well, if you get the university to sign on for a ceasefire, like
Oh,
what is the end? Like what if they sign on tomorrow? What happens?
yeah, it's not even
I
it's not the university. They're trying to get the city councils, like
okay.
Irvine City
Let's
Council.
say
Yeah,
the
it's city
city of
council.
Irvine, California, signs on and says, "Please stop."
You know what? It just makes us seem really cool, like Cambridge or Berkeley.
Oh, is that really what's? I
Yeah,
don't know what it's
it's
about.
like being
I
in the in group. Like Cambridge, Massachusetts did it, Berkeley did it, and then yeah, it's symbolic. But it's so much it's so like everyone's very passionate about it,
of course
right? And
it's
you can't
yeah.
get passionate about getting private equity off campus because it just seems so complex. But I think if we actually work towards it, we could actually reduce the UC budget and redistribute it for the workers. Right now, we're looking at UCI at a $120 million deficit,
Mhm.
60 million of which has already gone into cuts. And then we have the EVC come on and be like, oh, we're going to look for 60 million more. And I would be like, yeah, let's look at all these offices, the Office of Student Wellness, the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. How much money are they sucking off? What do they know about what actually happens in a classroom?
I gotta have you stop yelling about people sucking stuff off, especially considering your illness today.
You know what? I feel sexually harassed. I'm leaving right now. My lawyer will talk to you.
Hey, and TIR, I am HR as well, so I'll have to talk to myself. Um,
Can I speak to your manager?
hello. Was that colored
Hi.
cell acting up again?
I feel very sexually harassed by your host, and I think he hasn't done enough training.
Considering the show we did Thursday night, oh my god. Okay, so seriously though, we were doing a show on our sports show, and we talked about how venture capital is entering into the collegiate arena through the realm of kind of renting, buying athletic departments, because as
What?
you know, numerous athletic departments don't make money.
Right. Right.
And a lot of it has to do with Title IX. And there's a lot of sports, a lot of sports don't make money.
Hmm.
And you're hearing more and more people talk about hey, football and basketball make all the money, and women's volleyball, why are we paying for these buses and these facilities for these sports that just they cost us money?
Okay.
Um, and private capital is coming in, and right now they're not really making that much money, and there's only a handful of schools they have their hand in.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but it's being looked at as like maybe they're taking the tax deduction because it's a loss, and they're using this investment today as a loss, but
Mhm.
is the long game to come in and like totally privatize. So
Mhm.
we also had you had another talk about when I was with you at UCI about student housing, about how there was some private equity involved in student housing as well, right?
Yeah, the American so one way of looking like you're cutting the budget is actually farming out the building of student housing to private companies.
Mhm.
So, someone just said that we're being reflexive cynicism here. I'm not cynical about this issue. I just want to look at things plainly and clearly and think about where we're investing our energies. No, it's important that the Palestinians understand that not all Americans support this bloody war. But I'm going to focus on these issues at hand, the issues
Mhm.
that I understand better, the issues that I think people can organize around to um, produce better outcomes. This is like in corporate speak for ordinary working class people in America. Okay, so one of the things that makes college so unaffordable are escalating costs. And what they told us in our budget deficit meeting is that inflation has increased. Um, all the operating costs of the UC, everything is like very unpredictable. But if you take one step back from this and you look at how the tax base has changed in America and
Mhm.
in California, and how
Mhm.
America was once and California was once able to fully fund the UC, and now the state only gives like 11 to 13% of the budget to the UC. You'll see that sort of diminishing investment in public education is accompanied by an obscene accumulation of wealth in private equity and venture capital in the state of California. And this has to do with Silicon Valley, with the model of disrupt, burn it, fail fast, accumulation of monies in and extraction of value from companies that then reorganize themselves not around a product or anything else,
Mhm.
but as pure financial instruments. So all of these private equity companies that are in California um, have accumulated wealth at the cost of the actual worker. And this obscene accumulation of wealth is looking for good investments. So it's
Mhm.
going into different sectors, like the college athletic
Mhm.
sector. They look at ventures they think can make money that are losing money. So
Mhm.
that's like a perfect, college athletics is a perfect thing for them. I don't know what they'll do to that sector, but they're obviously looking at that closely to try to change it. DEI training,
Mhm.
another sector. They're like, how can we make money from this? Here's another area that private equity is in right now that you're going to be looking at: urgent care centers. Private urgent care centers are popping up all over California. And my friend says New York City too. Like a mini mall closes its hardware store, and suddenly there's an urgent care there. That's funded because there are huge amounts of money controlled by very few men, most of whom are white, most of whom got MBAs in the Ivy League. So
Mhm.
all this DEI stuff is bullshit to them, but they can run their company very with like underlings that are very diverse, and they are going in to fulfill needs that the public infrastructure is failing to do so. So like hospitals, doctors' offices
Yeah.
are overburdened, right? So right now, if your kid has an emergency, like in my neighborhood, I've heard this from my friends, they say, take him to urgent care down the street. That urgent care will then charge you insurance, no problem. That urgent care is a for-profit urgent care office. It's very slick, it's very beautiful, and it's funded by private equity. I
Hmm.
don't know if they're making money yet, but they also like hire doctors and nurses who are overworked in the larger hospitals, larger practices, give them allegedly, better working conditions. But they're in every mini mall now. So that's another area where, like, with the failure of public health in America,
Yeah.
you have this insertion of this service provider funded by VC. The other area a friend of mine is Helene Olin is writing an article on is veterinary services.
Really?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
you know that during the pandemic, everyone got pets and we're all like super attached to our pets. We
Love your
adopted a
dog.
doggy during the pandemic. And there were these little, there are these animal hospitals that I saw all of a sudden they had the same logo. And it's called Veterinary Care of America, VCA. It's actually the Mars company, which makes Mars bars. They have a private equity branch, and they're buying up veterinary practices and hospitals and making the vets charge you for upsell you on different services for your pets
Jesus.
because you love them so much. And here's the killer. Why is this happening? Because older vets, and Helene has all the numbers, and I'm hoping it's going to come out soon. Um, Younger vets come out of veterinary school with so much student loan debt. So that already is a financial instrument, right? They can't buy out the older vets' practices. They can't afford it. So who comes in? Private equity.